So, Auntie, let us shift to our main topic in these series of podcasts that we're making, which is Minnesota, because we want to show how Minnesota is like a place for Carnatic music, just like how Dallas and San Francisco and New York and all these places within the U.S. have the like just a place for Carnatic music. We want to represent Minnesota the same way. So tell us about the migration to Minnesota. So coming from like, Chennai to Minnesota and that whole shift.
Actually, I didn't come from Chennai to Minnesota, Prasid. Can we stop this for just a minute? This thing has fallen
Yeah.
off. Let me just put it back on. And then we'll resume this. Can you start that question again, Karna?
Yeah, we can do that. Ready? Yeah.
I'm
Auntie?
ready.
Okay. So, Auntie, so let's move to our major topic for these series of podcasts that we're doing, which is Minnesota. Because what we're trying to do here is to show how Minnesota is a place for Carnatic music, just like how Dallas, San Francisco, and all these other cities have Minnesota as a is a hub for Carnatic music. We want to show Minnesota the same. So tell us about your migration from Chennai to Minnesota, the migration to Minnesota, as we like to call it.
The migration to Minnesota happened for me via Europe. So, 5, 6 years before I came to Minnesota, I have lived in Europe. Before that, I've lived in some other Middle Eastern countries because of my father's work there. So, I've had a little bit of exposure to how one can continue their own pursuit of their own form by living in these other countries. And you find workarounds on how to keep it going. So that was a very important lesson I had already learned for 5, 6 years, having lived in different countries before I came to Minnesota. The one thing I did not realize was how cold it was going to be here, because I have lived in England, I've lived in
Mhm.
Zurich. So we were going up the cold scale, and I told Raj uncle, next you're going to put me in an igloo in the Arctic Circle, wherever we are going to go next. And that's my Veena and I will be sitting inside an igloo probably. I guess today feels like that. It's in a home, but not an igloo. But the weather today can be testimonial to that. Raj said we're already in one, so I agreed. I said, yeah, you're right. So coming to Minnesota was something I thought I would be here for a few years. As you know, I was pretty active on the Chennai circuit and in India. So I thought it might be for a few years and then I might keep going back playing. But I always had a passion for computer science too. So I went to school, got my master's, started doing a small little PhD in AI in the UK. And so I always so wanted to keep that passion going. And I very naively thought I could do both together all my life, not
Hmm.
realizing that I really need to have avatars if I have to do a computer job, teach, perform, raise my family. It was just naivete, if I may say, for lack of a better word, that I thought I could do all of it. When I arrived in Minnesota, one of the first things I encountered was the Tamil Association. I came in 95, and it was, I think, March 7th or 9th of 1995 that Neeraj and I joined Raj Uncle, who had already arrived in 94 towards the end of the year. So when we came here, the Tamil Association, somebody told me about the Tamil Association, and one of my first performances was at the Tamil New Year that happened in April.
Hmm.
So because I had already been performing, right? I mean, my career was already somewhat happening. So people knew a little bit about me and a little bit about my work. It was not hard for me to start performing here. Then I did something for the Gita Ashram, which is in Brooklyn Park. So the activity of music and dance was already happening.
Hmm.
I also ran into people from IMSA. That was one of the first things that happened to me. And they asked me to join the board. And I was very impressed to find one of the oldest musical organizations in the US that IMSOM was taking the pride of place there. This is its 40th year of existence. We should be very proud about the fact that one of the Aradhana itself is only 43 or 44 years old, Cleveland Aradhana. IMSOM is 40 this year. So this is something very big that we have this music institution in Minnesota that has served the public for so long. and continues to do so. So I'm really, really proud and honored to be part of this community where there is an organization like IMSOM. I met Premanand uncle. Pavan uncle in those days was also one of the people we were working together. Then Amita came. There were many other people. Ravi Ravichandran uncle. There were so many other people that were very active about the music situation. Then, of course, with as the years went by, we realized that there were lots of dance companies in town that where Carnatic music was also important. And several of my colleagues with whom I have had a very good relationship in India started coming to perform for IMSOM. Slowly, our situation about Tamil Association, Kannada Kuta, started to grow. We started to see a surge of more people coming from India, thanks to the Y2K boom, which brought you young people are too young to know this, but when the year 2000 came around, there was a huge need for people to fix things in technology. So when the year 1999, so they had only three digits for the year 999. That was how they did it. When 2000 came, all that was going to roll over to 000. So then the year would be set back to year zero rather than moving ahead to the year 2000. So lots of programs needed to be changed to incorporate a fourth digit so that it was 1999 and it became 2000. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It might seem like a very small thing to you, but thousands and thousands of computer applications worldwide were going to crash, but for fixes that needed to be done. So many IT professionals came from India at that time, around 2000, to this country to help solve that problem for many corporations. And that is how there was a huge influx of the Indian population coming into Minnesota. Our temple was always there. We had a little temple on Polk Street, which was also a meeting point for everybody. But if you look back on the history of our temple, this temple ground, the ground itself, the land itself was bought many, many years ago before it was actually constructed in Maple Grove. So our temple became another focal point. Then SV temple came along. Then several other temples came along in town. And cultural organizations started to grow as well. So now, as we know, SV Temple runs Nadotsavam for the past 10, 11 years now, very sincerely. My own journey, I'm happy to say, with the Tyagaraja Aradhana, which began for the first time in 1995. We had our first Minnesota Tyagaraja Aradhana in 1995. And your father can speak to this, Prasid, that he was part of that group. And our relationship with the Sri Ram uncle, Balaji, and Shrini, all these three musicians, South Indian musicians, and then of course Ethirajan came along later, started to really make something happen in the Twin Cities. Leela Ramanathan Mami, was one of the leaders of the Aradhana, along with Ramanamma Manda Mami, who one of the prime disciples of the great violin Vidwan Dwaram Venkateswamy Naidu, was also living here in Minnesota. So Minnesota had these hidden treasures that we were all lucky to come together and practice for 3 months a year to present that Tyagaraja Aradhana. I still remember scripting out everything, and we would divvy up the work among ourselves. Leela Mami, myself, and Brahmanam auntie, they were much senior to me, but because of the fact that I'd been around the block a little bit in the profession, we were all able to come together and present it. Then slowly I invited IMSOM, where I was one of the directors, to get involved with the Aradhana, because we were doing this as a separate group ourselves. We were investing, putting in some money and pooling resources, getting help from the student body at the university to get the auditorium. St. Paul Student Center was one of our venues for several Aradhanas. And we used to run all of this by ourselves before Anukrishnan auntie started getting involved. Then slowly IMSOM started getting involved. And I think IMSOM has been involved for a good number of years now as presenting Aradhana as a community festival. And I'm happy that I was in both places so we could make these things happen. And thanks to this kind of impetus that I got from many institutions, I was able to bring Carnatic music and our presence to many of the Western organizations in town. So once they started to realize the beauty of the Veena, I got an opportunity to play for Minnesota Orchestra. I started to perform for St. Paul Chamber Orchestra and very, very traditional Western organizations. Some fellowships came along in the form of Bush and McKnight. All this, I say, is our presence started to grow in Minnesota. And I have to say this at this time. We are very lucky, despite the weather, to live in a place like Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason why we are so lucky is this is a very arts-loving state. That is something people from the East and the West Coast are shocked when I go to conferences, when I represent Minnesota in something like music or speak about something. They are really shocked to see the depth of the work here. I have worked with Pangea World Theatre, which is a world renowned theatre company. I worked with an Ananya Dance Theatre. Ananya Chatterjee is one of the most leading authorities on Indian contemporary dance. Ragamala Dance Theatre, of course, we all know how famous they are and how great their work is. Rita Mustafi Auntie runs Katha Dance Theatre, which is the Kathak discipline. And among our own South Indian musical centers, how many we have? We have Pramila Vasudevan again in the dance field, Suchi Sairam again in the dance field. And when we schedule for Saraswati Abhishekam now, we are unable to fit the number of requests we get because we started scheduling for Saraswati Abhishekam every week. Vidya Suresh Aunty handles it. And there are so many people who'd like to present. I have not named every organization in town because that list is huge. And now,
Yeah,
as a
of course,
member
of
of
course.
American Composers Forum for 25 years, now on the board of directors there, I also feel incredibly proud that our music is getting the recognition, that everybody now realizes the value of this music and recognizes it as one of the most beautiful world forms there is. So, Pranav, to answer to your point about um, is Minnesota a happening place like the East and the West Coast? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Look at this organization that you boys have formed, you young men have formed. This is a great matter of pride for me that you have put MN on the map with this step as well, just like MN has been on the map. And for the last 10, 15 years, there have been people who have formed small organizations like Layasaram. Lysaram has been doing fantastic work, and Lysaram is not one of the small ones I'm talking about. I'm talking about Venkat Devlapulli Uncle's organization, which is,
Manam.
Manam.
Yeah.
yes, exactly. But Sriram Uncle has been dreaming of Lysaram's work and has put in so much effort to form an organization. You know, when you form an organization and run it, just like our own Nadarasa has formed a non-profit last year, it's not easy because you have to really clearly know what is it special about your organization that differentiates it from somebody else. But the good thing about Minnesota is we all work together. If there is a kacheri, I try to find out how best can I involve everybody into this kacheri. And I think the same thing holds good for all my colleagues and friends in town. And we've become one large family, which is, I think, the best part of Minnesota. We are
Definitely.
not yet that big in number that we can't still see each other, that we can't celebrate our family relationships, that we can't be together as a as one family. The temple has grown to be such a huge place, such a big umbrella organization for all of us to come together. India Association Minnesota is another very big organization that we all unite for various causes. And I'm a proud member of this community that I can be involved with all our Indian Desi organizations and be involved with non Desi organizations to advocate for what is so beautiful about the Indian culture. So this is a very loaded question, isn't it? I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you have started this initiative to put Minnesota on the map, and I think Minnesota is already on the map. And this is true for even the, like I said, even for the Western classical traditions, the non-Indian traditions. Many people say you have so much happening. The Walker Art Center is a world-class venue for presenters. The University of Minnesota's Tedman Concert Hall or the Northrop Auditorium. These are all world-class places. Schubert Club is one of the most well-known venues of Minnesota. It's close to 140 years of presenting music. Our radio stations do a great job in promoting all kinds of music. Cedar Cultural Center is a great venue for global music. So I can go on and on, I can go on and
Yeah.
on about this because I've had personal experiences with these organizations that have helped establish Indian music in Minnesota.
Oh, Auntie, that is so much information to take in. But like, it's so amazing to see just from your perspective how Minnesota plays an important role in your life, and it just shows how much we have to show and to like just present to everyone, saying that yes, we have this music, we have this talent, we have this upcom, we have these people just showing all their brilliance and their talent. So yeah, it's really amazing to hear
And
from.
And I have to say one more thing, which I think is the most important part of this whole discussion. All this is there, okay? You young people, you have so much dedication, so much passion, and your parents and your teachers, I have to say, have given you this value system that you are holding on to, which I promise you is going to help you in your life. Your respect for the elders, your respect for the culture, your passion to learn, make the best of this frozen tundra.
Yeah.
That is the part that is most inspiring for somebody like me. I've been here now since '95, so you can do the math. Now, when I look at the future, that is the most important thing in any discussion. Okay, this is great. What does the future look like? The future looks fantastic. Prasid and Pranav, you are examples of that. And why is it so fantastic? Because you have all your values in the right place. Your heart is in the right place. May the blessings of the divine always be with you in your journeys
Thank you so
and
much.
keep
Thank
you
you.
and keep you very firmly rooted to all those good values that you believe in. We're not talking about religion. We're not talking about any one particular art form. We're talking about the overarching cultural scope that you have all been blessed with and that you have grabbed with both hands. Like I said, we live in a city where the weather is not great 6 months a year.
Right. Yeah.
You know, even to
Definitely.
go to class, even to go to a kacheri. We have gone to aradhanas amidst snow and ice, skating and skidding, driving down to the venue.
Yeah.
So
Of
why
course.
did we do that? Because we care so much about it. It's frozen outside. We're shivering in our boots, but
Yeah.
we go to the aradhana. We go and celebrate the music. And that is, and you, every year when we watch the youngsters come on stage and perform, each and every concert you all sing and play fills our heart with pride and joy because this is our future. You are our future. You are our tomorrows. So for me, that is the most inspiring part of it. So Minnesota is great, but Minnesota's future is very secure. That is the most
Definitely.
important thing. So carry that in your hearts with pride. Carry that with a bit of caution also, because that's a big responsibility. And anytime you have responsibility, the weight is on your shoulders. So I wish you the very best. Of course, however much I can help you, I will always be here. But you know, this is the most beautiful part of this whole. I think this whole interview it comes back to you, your responsibilities, and what you're carrying forward, and your incredible families that this credit should go to.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Auntie.
you, Auntie.
You're most welcome, both of you.
So, Auntie, you've done, as you mentioned before, you've done so many collaborations with Western artists and with Western culture and with so many different cultures. One really big project you did is Maitri. Can you tell us about Can you tell us about the album? Can you tell us about how it came to be, who the general idea, and who are all the people in Maitri and stuff like that?
Yes, I'll be happy to. One of the reasons I do collaborations is because I like to extend the reach of our music, Carnatic music, to other forms and see if we can work together. All my life, I have been doing this. I think it began in 1990 when I was asked to play with a tabla artist for the BBC. I had never until then played a concert with a tabla artist. I've seen them on stage, I have admired the music. I didn't know much about it, but I had to make an entire concert recording with a tabla artist because that was the request of the BBC when I was in England. That was my first taste 25 years ago, maybe 30 years ago now, on collaborative work. And I never saw myself as that happening in my life, but that began. And once I came to Europe, once I went to other parts of Europe, I was in Switzerland. I had a student who studied Veena with me who used to be a piano teacher, a Swiss lady. She taught me a lot about Western music in more detail, much more than what I knew. So once I came to the States and started to receive opportunities for collaborations, I enjoyed them immensely because again I was learning the whole time. I was learning how to make this work. I was learning about another art form that I had no clue about. So, as I said, that has always been my fundamental. What am I learning from this? Maitri came about after several years of soul searching. I was asked to put together a concert for Nadotsavam, and they asked me to do something different. I had about a month time. So I said, what is the thing that I like to do a lot? Well, improvise, make music with instruments that sound good together, including the voice. So I approached Michelle Kinney, with whom I'd already put together an album called Namaste Slanche, which was just cello, veena voice, Bhupati Uncle on the mridangam, and a drum set, an artist on the drum set called Graham. So we had an album out. Then I asked Pat O'Keefe, with whom I had played in Zeitgeist several times, and Bhupati Uncle, of course, who I have played in collaborations and concerts, because I realized that I needed somebody really, really rock solid who's done collaborations. And Bhupati Uncle, as you all know, Prasidi is your Vadyar, you know this very well, has played with some of the greatest names of Indian and Hindustani music, and probably some Western artists also that I'm not aware of. But Bhupati Uncle was also very happy to be part of it. And he also was here when this Nadotsavam was happening, because he was on tour. So we had a month. On that concert, I remember it was David Burke who played the oud and some guitar. And it was Bhupati Uncle, it was myself, Michelle, and Pat O'Keefe. Very soon, we started receiving opportunities to perform elsewhere. One of the concerts, I asked your father to join us. Balaji played with us in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And in another concert, Anthony Cox played with us. I think it was probably the same one. So we started to see that Maitri was taking on different shades and colors. And Srini Uncle started to join Maitri, because Srini Uncle was also playing when Bhupati Uncle couldn't join Zeitgeist. Zeitgeist and us, we had another collaboration too. So for the Mridangam, we had either Bhupati Uncle or Srini Uncle. Well, for the very last outing of Maitri, which just came out 2 days ago on Schubert Club's website, we had a new member, and that was Shruti, who you all know very well. Shruti sang soprano and played keys on that concert, because Srini Uncle couldn't join us also because of the COVID situation, and it was a live recording. So that was another new form. So Maitri is a collaboration where we, as always in my philosophy, extend a handshake to another system. I don't profess to know any jazz music. I don't profess to know any classical Western music. But I do know that Carnatic music can definitely reach out and give a handshake. And the veena and the voice are very suitable for that. And so is the mridangam. So when we have somebody who's a decent improviser, and in this group, everybody's an amazing, improviser, and people who are composers, because we've written our own tunes for Maitri, in addition to using some of the older tunes that have been time tested and adapted them and rearranged them for Maitri. When we have this combination, then we have a perfect team in Maitri. Maitri is, as I said, the music of friends. And I think all our music is the music of friends, whether it's Maitri or not. But when you have that trust, when you have that understanding of each other's minds, I think things go a little better. And so the album came about in 2018. We released it to a very nice reception, and the album has been reviewed across the world. And we were supposed to be in Portland, Oregon today, performing for Kala Kendra on Maitri as part of my fall tour, which of course has all been shelved because of COVID. That is the story of Maitri.
Wow.
Very caring and loving story that all these different types of music bond and gel together. And me having been to the reception and up by bringing me to the Green Bay practices, I've heard such wonderful pieces, and it's just amazing to see how well such a classical instrument such as a veena and a really jazz-filled instrument, clarinet, and orchestrated instrument as a cello, drums can all come together and just create such wonderful music.
Yes, Prasid, it's a lot of give and take, and nobody feels like they're giving anything. Actually, I always feel like I'm taking a lot, because there's so much respect and love among the team members, which I think is most necessary. There has to be love, there has to be affection, and there has to be trust. Whether it's a guru-shishya relationship, or whether it is co-artists on stage, or whether it's an artist and the audience, whether it's a composing experience, there has to be love and friendship and trust. Once that happens, I think other things are very easy. And I'm glad you talked about being there at rehearsals and seeing that happen, because rehearsals help us understand each other. That's what these rehearsals are for. And of course, getting to know each other's pieces is very important, because new pieces have been written for Maitri. But it is more than just learning the notes of the music. It is far beyond that. And one has to have joy when you perform. Otherwise, the audience will be totally bored. They are not going to connect if they don't see. It doesn't all have to be happy music. Sometimes it's very thought provoking and it's very introverted, introspective, if I may say, not introverted, introspective music. And for that, we have to explore. Maitri is somewhat a breakdown completely of various things and then a building, a new building that came up.
Yeah. And I actually have to mention one thing. Because of going to the practices and seeing Mr. O'Keefe playing the clarinet, I actually got inspired to take clarinet in band. So I have to thank everybody in my team for that. That was it.
I will tell him that, Prasid. He will be very happy to know. He'll be very happy to know. In fact, one of our students came to one of my other programs we did for UNESCO earlier this year. It was just Pat, me, Shruti, and Tim. It was a small, quick program, a live thing a few weeks ago. And one of my students came to help, and she was talking to Pat about how inspiring and it was to watch him play. And I think she's either a clarinet or a trumpet player, and he was giving her tips on various things. So it is really beautiful to see that Maitri artists are able to inspire our youngsters who come from bicultural identities like you, both, to explore what else they can do with these connections. And I think that's very important in today's world where things can very easily be divisive. We don't need divisiveness. We need to come together.
Unity, yeah.
Yes.
And Auntie, talking about the young generation, I think you read my mind. I actually wanted to ask you about Nadarasa. As you mentioned earlier, that you just made it a nonprofit organization last year. Can you tell us about your journey with Nadarasa and the students in Nadarasa?
My kids are my kids. Whether they're adults or whether they're children, they're all my kids. I love them very much. I miss them when I'm on tour, that I don't get to see them in classes. So this COVID period has been a boon for me that I'm able to see them. The non-profit Nadarasa was formed last year. It's been something that has been on my mind for a long time, but I never got down to doing it. Basically, it was just me with a mental block. Oh, I don't have time to do this. But luckily, I got together a group of people who were very interested in the same things that I was, which is to further the music of our community, as in Carnatic music, but also bring in other forms into our space, try to help the music community. Little did we know when we formed Nadarasa that we are going to be doing COVID relief this year. And our patrons have supported us so much. We've been able to hand out a few grants to musicians in the Twin Cities, non-Indian musicians who've been struggling with the COVID problem and not having enough jobs. But these have all been friends of ours for many years in many projects. And it's just a blessing to have an organization like Nadarasa. I think there again, I got very, very lucky that the families who are in Nadarasa are extended families of mine. Just like I have cousins or brothers and sisters, they're all like that. And these kids, adults and children, are not just studying music with me, they are my life. They are the reason why I'm able to be happy that I can pass on to the next generation, which is a duty of every musician in the Carnatic tradition, because ours is an oral tradition, and this is how we have passed it on from the teacher to the student who then grows up to be a teacher. I mean, I don't mean everybody has to be a professional teacher, but you pass it on either by singing or for your own personal satisfaction. You spread the joy around. It could be abstract passing on. It doesn't have to be very direct passing on, but you do it in so many ways. So Nadarasa is my life's blessing.
Amazing, amazing.
Amazing, Auntie. So, Auntie, as we start to wind down, we have just a couple of questions to ask you. So, obviously, through your musical journey, you would have had a bunch of role models or people that you love to listen to at certain times. So, who is your favorite artist to listen to? It could be like Veena, vocal, or other instrumental.
Hard to say one person, Karna. And I'm sure you've heard this from many people, because as we get exposed to the greatness of every artist that we encounter in our lives, you realize there is something to take from everybody. So I don't mean to evade your question, but my guru was a role model for me. And when I say my guru, I'm talking about 6 or 7 of them in my journey of moving around also in India. And as far as performers go, I've admired Vidwan Balachandar in the Carnatic tradition. I've admired Vidwan Chitti Babu. They're both very different artists, but I look at them for different reasons that they inspire. They inspire. And you just look at one perfect Sangati and you just said, ah, that's what I need to have in my repertoire. I look at vocalists over the years. I think about Veena Dhanamma for having given the status to this instrument. So what can I not admire about? I look at other world forms and I admire all the Western classical composers about how could they compose like this parallelly for so many instruments in so many ranges in such special ways that the music touches you. So all I can say is my dream is to be able to hear all my life so I can appreciate music. So if hearing is the last skill that I would lose or faculty that I would lose, I would be the happiest because I can at least keep listening to music. So if I'm a fan of one thing, that is music. Music in any form, any genre, anything, any instrument, any person, living, not living, it's just music, because there is so much beauty to music. And I'm most grateful to be a Rasika first.
Yeah, I think we all are very good. Like, we're just happy to be Rasikas, just, because just listening to music, especially when we're stressed or when we're happy, like mood and like that emotion plays a factor in when listening to different types of music.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the distortion when you have a rock band on stage. And there's something very, very cool about it. That decibel level takes a lot of, to be able to cut through with that clarity at that decibel level. These concerts are so loud because there's so many people in the space. I look at those musicians at their stamina. I mean, what is not to like about it? They stand there for hours together dancing and singing with so much stamina. They can pump up thousands of people in one go. So, I mean, I'm talking about rock music or, that kind of thing right now. But I just think anybody that is fortunate to make music has got something very special going on. And I admire that. I want to be every kind of music there is in this world. I wish I could be.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would, Auntie. So another question. So I think throughout the interview, I think you might have gave hints about about the answer to this question. So what made you pursue Carnatic music? What gave you that drive, saying yes, this is what my future is. This is where I want to go. Like, what factor played to give you that decision?
Hard one again. I think it happened right when I was very young, that I wanted to be a performer and I like to teach. And this happened when I was very young. So I have a feeling that the beautiful notes, the gamakams of Carnatic music, the sounds of the veena, the look of the veena, this huge instrument that you needed to tame and get under your control. At that time, now it's my best friend. But when you're very young and you look at this dragon head, I suspect a little child would think like, wow, that's really cool, So I wonder if it was that. I've always wanted to know this myself, but I don't have an answer. Though I know it's been a very long dream of mine to continue to be a performer, continue to teach, to spread the word on music. None of this I really planned, if I can say that. All I wanted to do was I wanted to do this. I didn't plan this step and then this step. And so I think I owe it to my parents and my gurus' blessings that things have gone on the way they have. Because I did not certainly think that one day I would be sitting and talking to 2 young men in Minnesota about my journey thus far in music. I definitely did not think that would happen, because I'm not somebody who plans this kind of a thing. There are people who would go about it very meticulously. All I knew was I loved music and I wanted to be surrounded by it always. And I also felt like I wanted to perform music. So maybe, just seeing great artists as a child inspired me, and I wanted to be one of those people on a stage playing and singing. But the one thing I can truly say is I had the best of parents. They knew exactly what needed to be done. I had the best of gurus. They guided me along the way. I have till today never asked, can I learn this song? Can I do that song? To my gurus when I was young. The reason is I was just given so much work to do. I didn't think I needed more work and asked them for another song. You get what I'm saying? So they already were flooding me with things to learn. So I think I just got very lucky. I also got very lucky with my family, with Raj uncle, who I don't think knew that this was going to be the story of his life, being married to a musician. I don't think he knew that. So he has supported me despite the fact that he's not coming from a musical family or he doesn't have professionals. I'm the first professional musician in my family also. And people thought I would be a computer engineer because that's what I was doing before I quit. So to answer your question, Kana, I did not think I ever knew, except deep down there was a dream. But how it all happened is again God's blessings, Guru's blessings, parents' blessings. It sounds very cliched to say this, but I truly believe that what you get in life is all what has been given to you by life. You can't plan these things. You absolutely cannot plan these things. And you hope it happens. You can work towards it, but we don't know.
Definitely, Auntie. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Auntie, you've given us so much advice throughout this interview, and you've given throughout your teaching career and even your performing career, you've given so many students and everybody advice. Can you, for this interview, can you to for the last question I'd like to ask, can you give the younger generation or the upcoming generation of musicians some advice on how they can better themselves in music, or how they can get more intact, get get more serious about music, or how about practicing, or just about stage, or whatever advice you'd like to give.
Sure, and I'll try to do my best. I think Pranav might have heard some of this already. So in class, I say the same things. And if I have to think about your question, the one thing that comes to mind is never be afraid to work hard and be aware that you have to work hard. Be aware that that's part of the plan. Anywhere you need to go, whatever you need to achieve, learn this song, learn that mora, have perfection in your playing, have clarity, note shuddham, shruti shuddham, all these things. It all is a process of doing it again and again and again. So it is only in stories the world gets created in 7 days. In real life, it takes 7 years, 17 years, 27 years. It takes time. It takes real hard work. Trust your teachers. Go to the right teachers first. Make sure that you can vibe with them and have faith in them. Don't expect anything to happen overnight. These things take time. This is like, you can't make tair, if I can use that as an example, in 15 minutes. It has to ferment, it has to set before you get a good quality product. And you have to be watching it very carefully so it doesn't get overdone. All these things. The right temperature of the milk, I'm using a very, very small example. But don't be in a hurry for anything. Secondly, what is meant to come to you will come to you. Have faith. Have faith. Be prepared to work hard. Don't hasten the process. Trust your parents, trust your teachers. They really care about you. Your parents are the people you should be most grateful to, always. Not because that's what everybody says, but that's the truth. Because all they think about in their life is to give you the best they can, better than what they had. Same thing with teachers. Teachers, most times, are, particularly when you're studying music, they are trying to give you all that they have learned in their journeys and give you the best, the essence of it all. So have faith with your teachers. Don't be afraid to work hard. And there is no shortcut to success. Somebody wins the lottery, well, that's usually not the person you know. Somebody won the lottery, on it because you heard about it or read about it in the newspaper.
Yeah.
But the people that really who've been successful have worked very hard. So it's not fun to practice. I can say this for sure. There are days when I enjoy my practice. There are days when I do it because I have to practice.
Yeah.
I tell my students this too. So don't think after so many years of playing or singing, practice will become a fantastic idea. No, there are days when you don't feel like practicing. You're tired. Don't give up on it. You have to do it every day. Some of the greatest stories I've heard from Robert Bly, who was one of Minnesota's and the country's world's greatest poets, is I believe he would write every day only to receive rejection letters every day. He would write, send it out, the next day it will be rejected. But he will keep writing every day because he was a writer, right? He needed to do that practice. So that practice of practicing your craft, your art, has to be done every day.
You guys heard it. You guys heard it first. Keep practicing, keep working hard. Success should be measured by how much you work hard. And just keep continuing to practice, like Nirmalanti said, even if you don't want to, just keep pushing through. Because if you keep practicing, one day even you could become a Nirmala Rajasekar.
Well,
Thank
much
you so
bigger.
much, Auntie, for coming.
I want all of you all to become much, much more. This is nothing. So really,
Thank
I
you
think that.
thank you so much, Nirmalanti, for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
It was such a good time to have you. Thank you everybody at home for listening. Please make sure to go check out our social links in the description and make sure to go subscribe and like the video. And thank you for watching.
This is the Bros signing off.